Do you have a passport? No? Don't worry about it. You can still travel to some amazing locations outside of the US, and today we're going to show you where. Now, although you do not need a passport to travel to any of the locations we are going to share with you today, you do still need proof of US citizenship. For example, a certified birth certificate, or in most cases a real ID, or in some cases an enhanced driver's license, which are offered to those that live in Michigan, Minnesota, Vermont, New York, and Washington. Now I'm going to separate the places you can travel to into two separate categories. Those locations that you can travel to by air and the ones you can only travel to by land or sea. Starting with the places that you can travel to by air outside of the US without a passport, it's going to be the US territories. Those being Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands are located in the Western Pacific, roughly 6,000 miles away from the US mainland, making them the farthest place on Earth outside of the US that you can travel without a passport. Both island territories are absolutely stunningly beautiful, and their tropical climate make it perfect for a getaway. Average temperatures in both islands rarely drop below 75 degrees year-round, and in both island territories, English is actually an official language, so you shouldn't have any problem communicating with the locals. Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands are both located in the Caribbean and are just southeast of Florida. You can actually fly direct to both locations from a lot of cities in the US mainland. Both territories are absolutely stunning and offer their own unique experiences. Puerto Rico is going to offer a much more Spanish-influenced experience, with both English and Spanish being official languages of the island. The beaches of Puerto Rico are absolutely stunning, and Puerto Rico is actually the host of the only tropical rainforest within the US. The El Yunque National Forest is located in Puerto Rico and is beautiful. The US Virgin Islands, which are located just east of Puerto Rico, which are host to St. John, St. Thomas, and St. Croix, and many other small little islands, has English also as its official language, so communicating with the locals should not be an issue. The scenery and beaches in the USVIs is absolutely beautiful, and they actually have one of the best beaches in the entire planet located on St. Thomas. It's crazy that you can literally fly to these places with a direct flight out of the US with absolutely no passport needed. Switching over to our other category, there's actually only one place outside of the US that you can travel to by land without a passport, and that would be Canada. You can cross the US and Canadian border by foot or by car, and all you really need is a proof of US citizenship, that being like a birth certificate and a US driver's license. Canada has two official languages, French and English, but I've found traveling to Canada myself that most of the people that speak French are over in the Quebec province, and most of the citizens within the Quebec province are bilingual, so if you just start speaking English to them, they'll automatically switch their tune. So you should have no problem communicating with the locals. The only thing that can be a little tricky is that a lot of the street signs are actually in French, and the Canadian people are absolutely wonderful, and the scenery in Canada is some of the most breathtaking on Earth. In the past, you used to be able to cross into Mexico without the need of a passport, but that has since changed. But if you find yourself in Mexico needing to get back into the US and you do not have a passport, but you do have an enhanced driver's license, you can actually use that to cross back into the US. Speaking of Mexico, though, there actually is a way to travel to Mexico without a passport. You just have to do it by sea, and this is called the closed loop cruise rule. Essentially, if you embark on a cruise leaving out of a US port that then returns back to the same US port, then you can actually travel to a decent amount of countries outside of the US. You'll still definitely need a US driver's license and a proof of citizenship, that being a birth certificate, but you will not need that pesky little passport. Obviously, traveling outside of the US, you definitely should probably have a passport, but in some instances, it's technically not required. Now we're gonna go rapid fire with the countries that you can actually travel to outside of the US without a passport. Bermuda, the Bahamas, Mexico, Aruba, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Dominican Republic, the Cayman Islands, St. Martin, Antigua, St. Bart's, Barbados, St. Vincent, Dominica, Grenada, Honduras, and Belize. Essentially, you can visit most Caribbean islands without the need of a US passport as long as you do the closed loop cruise. And if you book a closed loop cruise, you'll actually get the documentation needed from your specific cruise line, so things always are changing, so you may or may not need a passport in the future.